with your questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Minister, and welcome to the officials. And thank you for the work that you're doing. There continues to be some confusion and conflicting information around carbon pricing. And so to help clarify this, would you explain what carbon pricing is and then why it's important, please?
Thank you for the question. According to most experts who've looked at measures to mitigate the impacts of climate change and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, carbon pricing is known to be, if not the most effective, certainly one of the most effective measures to fight climate change. And the very novelty of the Canadian system is that we're supporting Canadians in the transition by returning the vast majority of the revenues directly to them, which means that countries in South America, countries in Europe, countries in Asia are looking at the Canadian carbon pricing system as being a very interesting one. In fact, between 2022 and between 2021 and 2022, we went from 20% of the world being covered by some form of carbon pricing to 25%. We held an event in Sharm el Sheikh at COP27, where we had representative from the United Kingdom, from Chile, from the World Bank, all coming to sing the praises of Canada's carbon pricing system. It is an essential component of the fight against climate change. And again, anyone who's looked at this will tell you that that's the case.
Thank you. Could you also explain what the Government of Canada is doing with the revenues it collects through the carbon pricing?
So, as I said, the vast majority, 90% of the revenues are recycled directly to Canadians in jurisdictions where the federal system applies. And according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, today, 8 out of 10 Canadians are better off. They get more money back from the federal government than what the carbon pricing is costing them. But it is about sending a price signal. It is about ensuring that we move away from our dependencies on fossil fuels towards public transit, towards electrification, towards clean technologies. So that's the very purpose, the very nature of the carbon pricing system. The other 10% of revenues is sent back to municipalities, Indigenous communities, and small and medium-sized businesses through either bilateral agreements or government programs.
Thank you. And still staying with some of the misconceptions, what is the federal benchmark and what does it do? And then on the other end of that, why not just let provinces and territories decide for themselves how to price carbon pollution?
Well, the output-based pricing system is what the system, part of the system we're using. There's obviously the fuel charge, but the reason we have set a benchmark federally is that so there's fairness across the Confederation, so that the efforts are similar in all jurisdictions, while allowing for some flexibility in terms of the implementation. But it should be said that we renegotiating the output-based pricing system with every single provinces this year. Well, some last year, but we finalized the negotiations with all of the provinces this year. We negotiated with all of the provinces the output-based pricing system, including Alberta and Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, your home province.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Could you also then explain what, so slightly different area, but I think still along the same line of confusion, what is the approach to cap and cut oil and gas sector emissions?
Thank you. Basically, as I was saying earlier, the oil and gas sector is 27% of our emissions in Canada, and it is the sector that has seen the fastest growth over the last decade. So the commitment we made during the last election campaign is to cut the emissions, not the production, but the emissions of that sector. We held some consultations before Christmas. We had a consultation paper that was out there in terms of what kind of system we would use. So we are working with officials on draft regulations that should be presented in the coming months, where there will be another round of consultations on these draft regulations, and hoping to have final regulations by the end of the year or the beginning of next year.